I need you to understand something about today's voting rights decision, Louisiana versus Callais. This is not a setback that will take us back to the 90s or the 60s or even the early 1900s. This takes us back to the Civil War era. Justice Kagan cited a number of cases from this era in her dissent. There's one in particular where I think the parallels are most apparent, and that's the United States versus Cruikshank in 1876. This is right around where post-war Reconstruction took a turn for the worst. The case was regarding the Colfax Massacre, where a white mob killed 100 black men following a disputed election. The federal government in the case prosecuted under a law that was meant to convict members of the KKK. But the Supreme Court ultimately threw out those convictions. They determined that if a private citizen murders or assaults another, it's not federal jurisdiction, not a federal civil rights violation. And they did this because they said the prosecution failed to prove that the defendants were motivated by race. And the reason they couldn't prove this was because it was based on intent, not result or effect. This is the same reasoning used by today's court in Louisiana versus Callais. It is nearly impossible to prove that a legislature's intent was racism. Former slave states knew it, and this court knows it. No one is ever going to admit that to the point where there's a record of it. And so for half a century, we've seen the court use the result or effects test, which is about disparate impact. If a state legislature drew a map that simply had the effect of reducing representation for marginalized groups, that would be enough for a federal civil rights complaint. But now they once again, like in 1876, have to prove intent. And they're also not using race as it's been used. The Equal Protection Clause has been used to protect historically marginalized groups. And now they're saying it includes white people. I don't know how many seats in Congress Republicans are going to pick up because of this, but it's going to be a lot. They'll essentially be able to lock down the whole South in the House. And you could really look at it as the ultimate end of the Southern strategy. Black Americans gained a ton of ground after the Civil War, and the door was just slammed shut post-Reconstruction. I'm afraid that we're back. And we also may have lost our democracy in the process because Democrats aren't going to go back on redistricting now that Republicans are going to be able to do this. And so I think bipartisan redistricting is probably dead. The hits just keep coming. But don't worry, because Chuck Schumer will probably write a strongly worded letter.